Welcome back, Freshwater Fishing Novices, new anglers. I got this question from PJ Money. The best time to fish during the year? He gave me an out with the northeast, so that's, I only have to refer to what I'm doing up here. We're just looking at the northeast. Let me show you a picture on the map. Right there, that little part, northeast. That's that little part right there. I know in this video we're going to talk about the best time of the year to go fishing in the northeast. Well, it's a loaded question. Ice fishermen would obviously say when there's ice on. Open water fishing people, when they fish not with the ice, would say not when it's frozen. It comes down to a couple different factors. You know, one, what you like fishing for. Really, that's what it comes down to. What kind of fish you're fishing for. Let's talk about how you can figure out how to get more fish this year based on a couple factors. And it's a lot of anecdotal information. So everything I've learned personally might not apply to you. Maybe I've been out in a certain set of circumstances. I'm not aware of all the variables and it produces certain results. So then the next time, maybe the following year, that same day, I'm like, oh, this day, I marked it on my calendar. It's wicked good. I go out completely different. Maybe because the conditions are different. The sunlight might be different. The temperature might be different. The rate of spring happening might be different. So maybe spring happened earlier last year and it happened later this year, or vice versa. There's so many factors that go into when is the best time to fish during the year. I'm going to generalize right now. When I find that the bite really turns on is right around spawn, whatever temperatures your fish spawn at that you're going for, your target species, whatever their spawning temperature is, that's a good time to start, and then just keep going through the year until the fall. That's usually when I consider my fishing season full blown going. Like I go by a couple small parks where it's shallow and I know it's warming up faster. You know, maybe 6 feet deep in the center, but you're walking around the shore, and when you see the bluegill start moving, it's a good indicator that the fish are moving around. The reason I'm talking about bluegill, because they're small and they come up very shallow, so you'll be able to see them pretty close to shore. You know, some fish might sit out further where you can't see them. Let's talk about how you can figure out when the best time to fish is. And it really is based off the fact that fish are cold-blooded. So the water temperature is really going to affect their mobility. They're going to be more active when that water temperature is in their ideal species temperature range. So certain fish like certain types of temperatures. I made a huge list, a lot of the fish in the Northeast. Let me tell you about these fish real quick. Obviously we have bluegill, we have sunfish, we got hornpout, we got largemouth bass, we got smallmouth bass, we got crappie, we got yellow perch, we got northern pike, we got chain pickerel, we got rock bass, we got walleye, we got landlocked salmon, lake trout, brook trout, brown trout, and rainbow trout. Now, there's more fish than that. That's not the extent of the fish in the Northeast. It's a lot of the target species that people go for when they fish in the Northeast. I found the temperatures that these fish really thrive in, like the temperatures that they're active. And my thinking is that since they like these temperatures, they're going to be more mobile. They're going to be moving around. They're going to be eating. If you check the water temperature, you might be asking how I'm going to check the water temperature. I'll tell you there's a couple ways. So anyway, back to what I was saying. So when these fish temperatures are happening and they prefer that temperature, they're going to be eating, which should give you a better chance of catching these fish. It doesn't depend so much on the time of year as it does the temperature of the water. If that makes any sense, PJ. The temperature of water. Right now we still have snow on the ground, we got ice on ponds. So we gotta wait till ice out. So that's not good for open water fishermen in the Northeast. PJ, I'm assuming you're not ice fishing. Once ice comes off the water, that water is gonna be pretty cold. Should I talk about how to measure the temperature of the water? Okay, there's a couple different ways you can measure the temperature of the water. You can measure with sonar, but that requires sonar in a boat or like a castable sonar, like the deeper, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but you can tie that to some very heavy braid, you know, 20, 60 pound braid, and on a heavy rod, toss that out there and it connects to your cell phone, and it's supposed to give you the temperature of the water. Another way you can do it is you can get, I would assume a lot of us have seen a fish tank. Anyway, sometimes there's a thermometer in the back, and it's usually on the side or something, and then there's like a cord and it goes down to the bottom of the tank. Well, that measures the temperature of the water so you can keep those fish comfortable in your tank at home or in the dentist's office or wherever it is. How far down do I need to go? So I tried to find a really long cord. So I went to a pet store and I was looking around for those thermometers. In my head, I'm thinking, well, dude, I can just hold that right here and drop it through my scupper hole in my kayak and it will go down so many feet. So I think it's only like a 3 or 4 foot length thermometer, and it's not weighted either. So like normally when you set up a tank, you'll put something like a rock on top of it. So I had to put some weight on it on the bottom so it would hold it down when I dropped it down in the water instead of just sitting right there. So I put that down, and that only gives me the top water column. It only gives me a foot to 3 feet, a foot to 4 feet of what the water temperature is. But now that doesn't really tell me what it is below that, which is a problem. Because if your water body's deeper than that, obviously you need to know the water temperature kind of as it goes down. And if you can find the right water temperature, right? So say it goes down, but ideally if I had a very very long, a 20-foot thermometer I could put at the bottom of the water column and then reel up. And I found the right temperature of what that fish would prefer. That's where I would want to be fishing. Top of the water column, bottom of the water body. Your thermometer is going up. Say you hit the special temperature of this one fish that you're fishing for. I would assume they would be in that area very frequently eating. That's their comfort zone. So that's one thing to think about, kind of how I guess how the temperature is. If you do it enough and you check temperatures of the water, like say you have the thermometer, right? And you put it in the water right there and you know how warm that water is. You can put your hand in and be like, oh, okay, that's 75 degrees, that's 60 degrees. If you do it enough, frequently enough, you'll eventually learn how warm the water temperature is by just touching it. Be like, you can guess within, I'd say 5 degrees, 8 degrees. You'll be able to guess, oh, it's, or at least 10 degrees, right? Oh, it's in the 60s, it's in the 70s. Ooh, that's 50s. Shit, that's 40s. Or that's 80s, that's bathwater. So it's gotta be 80s. Now let's get back to the point of this video. Early in the season, it's gonna be colder, obviously. So let's talk about cold water species fish, freshwater fish that you should fish for early in the season because they're gonna be most active. So the bottom level of this cold water species, there's like 5 different groups of 5 different fish, right? The lowest temperature is 39 degrees. The highest low temperature is like 47 degrees. So all of these fish fall between the 39 degree and the 47 degree range at the low end. So this is the low end temperature that they're gonna be active at. And then the high end temperature kind of varies for these fish. So let's start with landlocked salmon. If you're fishing for landlocked salmon, which we really aren't as freshwater fishing novices, you need a boat, you're going trolling, you're out in a big lake, but landlocked salmon, they start at 39 degrees, and it goes up to 55 degrees. So their ideal water temperature is 39 to 55 is when they're active. So you're going to want to target these fish in those temperature ranges. So when it's colder, landlocked salmon are a good option if you're going to go fishing. But as a novice, you need a lot of stuff. Either a boat rental, someone to bring you out. You're going to be trolling around, so they're going to need sonar. They're going to know the water temperature then, so that solves a lot of those problems. But you're going to be out on a big lake. You're not going to a little pond. Also, kind of in this group, lake trout, because you're going to end up being at a big lake. You're going to need a boat. You're going to be trolling for lake trout. Lake trout's temperature range 44 degrees to 60 degrees. I mean, again, you're going to need a boat, a person, sonar, other gear. It's let's not worry about that as freshwater fishing novices. Now you can catch these next couple species. They're trout, brown trout, rainbow trout, brook trout, brown trout. So brook trout and rainbow trout are both in the same temperature range. So you can catch both of these at pretty much the same time. They like the same temperatures. Their favorite temperature range is 47 to 68 degrees. And this is why you won't see them a lot down south. In the Northeast, brookies and rainbows are pretty much caught at the same time. You can find those guys. You can go small creeks. The only issue you gotta make sure is that it's not a fly fish only area. I won't go to like rivers for that reason. This section of rivers close to fly, it's only for fly fishing. You're like, I can't bring my spinning gear. Usually go to small creeks and stuff when I want to catch them. That's probably why I catch small ones. The brown trout starts at 47 degrees and goes to 75 degrees. So the brown trout's a little more hardy, is what I would say. Yeah, those are the cold water species. So early in the season, these are the fish I would be targeting. Let's say late March, early April, maybe even May. Mid-May, just because the water temperatures are still coming up. You know, the sun's still not at 16 hours a day. It's a little bit less. It's way less than that. If you want to get bit, as long as the regulations are right, check the state that you're in to make sure it's okay to fish for trout at this time. Those fish are good to target at those temperatures. When the water warms up from the 40s into the 50s, there's 2 different types of fish that start getting pretty active. We'll talk about the colder one first. The colder fish is the walleye. The walleyes prefer a temperature of 54 degrees to 70 degrees. I mean, that's a pretty big range. Walleye, good for slightly warmer temperatures. Rock bass like 59 to 70 degrees, so pretty much 60 to 70. And now we're getting up into the 60s. So the rock bass are still in this group. You can still fish for all those other fish. They haven't shut off on you. So this is the majority of the fish that you're going to be looking for. Some of those colder water fish are going to drop off. They're going to be a little harder to find, but you can just go into the shade in brooks and still catch brook trout up here. The crappie, the yellow perch, the chain pickerel, the northern pike, the largemouth and the smallmouth bass are all going to be active. Crappie temperatures. Crappie is like 60 degrees, 60 to 75 degrees. Yellow perch, 60 to 75. Chain pickerel, 60 degrees to 80 degrees. Northern pike, 60 to 75. And then smallmouth and largemouth, 60 to 75 degrees as well. So you can see what's happening and why I think during the year, the best time of the year is in that chunk where more of the fish are going to be more active. Now let's get into, we haven't stopped. We're still going warmer. So this is really the hotter fish. See, this isn't a steadfast rule because a lot of times early in April, May, right? I'm seeing bluegill and sunfish. And what's happening is, it depends on where they are in the body water, right? So if you have a pond, and it's very shallow, not even a foot deep, and you see bluegill everywhere, guess what? The water's very warm right there, and that's why they're there, because that's their preferred temperature range. And that's why you see bluegill and sunfish up shallow a lot, because it warms up to the temperature they like. And now that we're into these warm water fish, bluegill and sunfish, you see them in the same spots. I mean, you can catch them out deep too, but the water's got to be the right temperature. Bluegill, sunfish, they like 65 to 80 degree water. That's a good variable if you're fishing. I mean, you'll know it sure. Oh, it's between 65 and 80 degrees right here, because that's what this fish really loves. So now you can assume it gets a little bit colder the deeper it gets. And then you can base where those fish should be as well. Not to say that the largemouth bass won't be up in with the sunfish. I've seen it so many times, because they eat the sunfish. They know where they're going to be at, you know? We shouldn't leave out hornpout, right? Hornpout, like between 67 and 86 degrees temperature. Hornpout are bottom feeders, right? They like catfish, right? They just kick up the mud. What the kicking up the mud does is it brings up the temperature of the water. I mean, they're also looking for food, but it also raises the temperature of water. Carp do the same thing. They like kick up a lot of mud because they're sucking in crap from the bottom, but it also warms up the temperature of the water. I wonder if I should talk about carp. I'm not going to, because the park I go to has koi, I believe, because I haven't seen any carp that are bright orange or bright white or completely black, which I seem to be seeing. So I think someone let some koi go in this pond that I fish pretty frequently. Where the temperature range is most comfortable for most fish is when it's going to be the best time of year to fish. So I would say roughly, except for landlocked salmon, 68 degrees is probably the sweetest spot. I just looked down my list and it looked like that was right in the middle, where all those fish were happy. I hope everyone else learned something about when the best time of the year to go fishing would be. Maybe 2 weeks into May, mid-May, June, July, August, September. For sure. It's basically about 5-6 months of fishing, of really good fishing. That's the best time of year for me personally, the freshwater fishing novice, to go fishing. PJ, I hope that helped. I hope everyone else learned something from this video. Maybe the best time to look for your fish, where to look for them, how to find that temperature. Anyway, you can do all this stuff. Oh, yeah. Anyway, I hope everyone has a great weekend. Catch you next week.
Let's go.